Hello guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be ranking every single NHL team's first line from worst to best. Now of course today I'm continuing my worst to best series where we look at one thing through every single NHL team and rank it from 31 down to 1. Today is first lines in the NHL, and I haven't made a video in a couple of weeks on this series, and that's for a big reason. These videos take a pretty long time to make, and especially with this one, researching what were the first lines and then having to rank every single one of them, it took quite a bit of time, so hopefully you guys do enjoy. But without further ado, who do I see as the worst and the best first lines in the NHL and everything in between? Watch till the end for all my rankings and picks, and of course, hit that big red subscribe button for more videos just like this one. And of course, hit that like button also for one prayer for Jack Eichel. Now, as I said before, it took quite a bit of time to research the actual first lines for every team, so if I made any mistakes, let me know in the comments, but I found these first lines from Evolving Hockey. They have a great section on their page where it lists the forward lines, who played the most of who, and who played the most games played together, so I got most of my info from there. But we're going to start out at number 31 and the worst first line in the NHL, and at the last spot, I have the Anaheim Ducks. Now, their first line consists of Rickard Rakell, Ryan Getzlaf, and Jacob Silfverberg. Not bad players whatsoever, but I find that it's probably the weakest on this list. Ryan Getzlaf has taken some big steps back recently over the past couple seasons. Silfverberg, solid defensive forward, probably not a first-line player in my opinion. And Rickard Rakell, who I think used to be a first-line player, but unfortunately has taken some big steps back, which sadly for the Anaheim Ducks has been one of the main reasons why their offense has not been as good. Next up, going to number 30, I have the Ottawa Senators. Now, their first line is Brady Tkachuk, Chris Tierney, and Connor Brown. And besides Brady Tkachuk, I think it's quite poor. Chris Tierney should be nowhere near a first-line center, and Connor Brown had a great year, but I don't think he's a first-line guy either. Brady Tkachuk, on the other hand, fantastic player, super underrated as a winger, but the line as a whole is not that strong to me. Then you go on to the LA Kings at number 29. This line is Alex Iafallo. You have Anze Kopitar as the first-line center, and of course, Dustin Brown as the first-line right winger. Now, Iafallo, I think, is pretty underrated, and Kopitar, still a pretty solid center in the league at this point, but Dustin Brown kind of brings it down a little bit. I don't think he's up to the level of some other right wingers in this list, which is a main reason why the LA Kings are this low. Then you go on to number 28 and the Columbus Blue Jackets. They have Nick Foligno as the left winger, Pierre-Luc Dubois at center, and Cam Atkinson as the right wing guy. And it's kind of unfortunate because Atkinson was not that healthy this season, so at times he didn't even play, but this was their most consistent first line. With Pierre-Luc Dubois, I think he's a very underrated center. Still has some work to do, but I think has a lot of room to grow. Nick Foligno is kind of just an okay middle six guy. I don't like him on a first line though, and Cam Atkinson, even though when he is healthy, he's solid, I'm not sure as a first line right winger it's really all that strong. Then going on to number 27, and at this spot, I have the Arizona Coyotes. Now, admittedly, they were a lot higher because of Taylor Hall, but also at the same time, he kind of struggled on Arizona's first line, at least compared to what he's done in the past, so I wasn't really too sure where to put him. But at the center, you have Christian Dvorak, and at the right wing, you have Connor Garland. Now, in terms of actually wanting to watch these guys play, I think this first line is awesome. I love me some Connor Garland. Dvorak is pretty underrated in my opinion, and Taylor Hall is Taylor Hall, but unfortunately it's just not as strong as some others, even if I do like those players. Then going on to number 26, and at this spot I have the New Jersey Devils. Now admittedly, if they made some big steps forward, it could be a lot higher. Obviously, I don't even know why I said that, but with their first line, it is Bratt as the left winger, you have Nico Hischier at the 1C, and then Kyle Palmieri as a right winger. I think all three of these guys are very solid players. Nico Hischier especially, very good offensive player at this point, and Palmieri seriously underrated, but again, compared to some other teams, not quite as strong. Then you go on to number 25 and the San Jose Sharks. Now, I was kind of surprised by the line here because I expected some other players, but at the left wing, you have Evander Kane, at center, you have Tomas Hertl, and at the right wing, you have Kevin Labanc. Now, I think all three guys, again, super solid players, but due to the kind of step back with the Sharks, their numbers weren't as good. I still think Guys like Tomas Hertl are fantastic, but it's just not as good as it could be. Now going on to number 24, and my favorite team, the Dallas Stars. And this one will seem a little bit low for some people, but to me, it is exactly where they should be. You have Jamie Benn on the left wing, Tyler Seguin at center, and Alexander Radulov at right wing. Now, if we're just counting this season, it was pretty much the poorest season that the Stars' first line has had together. Benn was kind of just rough, especially to start out the season, got better as the season went along. Tyler Seguin offensively was just not as impactful, and eye test-wise, besides the power play, was almost invisible at times. And the same thing goes for Alexander Radulov. He was not that good this season, especially having the grit, the intensity. It wasn't all there compared to other years, which is definitely unfortunate. Then you go on to number 23 in the Minnesota Wild. This one consists of Zach Parise, Eric Staal, and Kevin Fiala. I really do like this line quite a bit, especially Kevin Fiala rising up this season, being absolutely amazing. Staal, a solid player, and Parise the same, but Kevin Fiala to me is the big one on that line. Now going on to number 22 and the Detroit Red Wings, and hey, that team is horrendous, but at least the first line is not all too bad. You got Anthony Mantha on the left wing, you got Dylan Larkin at center, and Bertuzzi on the right wing, and I really do like what this line provides. Some excellent offense, but also some great intensity with guys like Bertuzzi who bring it every single game. And then you go on to number 21, the New York Rangers, and it depends on who you ask with the first line. The Mika Zibanejad line is technically the first line for the Rangers, but it didn't play nearly as much minutes together as the Artemi Panarin line, where you have Panarin on the left wing, you had Strome at center, and then Jesper Fast on the right wing. Sure, it's listed first line wise as the Mika Zibanejad line, but this line played way more together, so that's what I'm going to go with. Obviously, Artemi Panarin is the absolute stud there, but in my opinion, Strome is not likely to replicate his season he had this year, especially if he doesn't play with Panarin next year. And then you have Jesper Fast, who's a pretty decent middle six guy, but in my opinion, not too much more than that. Then you go on to number 20, and again, this is where the prayers for Jack Eichel come into play with the Buffalo Sabres. Of course, the first line for the Buffalo Sabres is Jacob Olofsson. Jacob Olofsson? Olofsson. I can't do first name today. Olofsson on the left wing, Jack Eichel at center, and Reinhart on the right wing. And I think this is a pretty solid line. You obviously got Jack Eichel as the main guy there, but Reinhart, pretty decent top six guy, and Olofsson, who's becoming a power play beast offensively. It is a great line, and I think we'll do some excellent damage again next season. Then you go on to number 19 and the New York Islanders. You have Anders Lee on left wing, Matthew Barzal at center, and Jordan Eberle as a right winger. I really do like what this line provides if they're actually given the chance to be good offensively. I think Anders Lee, although took a little bit of a step back this season, can provide some excellent value, especially on the power play. Matthew Barzal is a freaking beast as well. And you got Jordan Eberle, who I think was one of the biggest crimes against that Islanders system, where I think if he was given more chances to be a beast offensively, he would really go. I still think Matthew Barzal is obviously the best player on that line, but I think offensively, they would have a lot better of a chance if Barry Trotz was not there. But obviously, they would not be winning as many games, so you kind of have to go with what you get. Then you go on to number 18 and the St. Louis Blues. This one is David Perron, Ryan O'Reilly, and Zach Sanford. Now, admittedly, I don't know why Zach Sanford is on this line, and it probably would be different if Vladimir Tarasenko was healthy this year, but you got Ryan O'Reilly, who I think is one of the best centers in the league today, and you got David Perron, who had a fantastic season. It's weird because obviously they're the Stanley Cup champions, but they don't need a fantastic first line to win. They got fantastic depth, and that is how they win cups, or I guess singular cup until they win another one. Then going on to number 17 and the Edmonton Oilers, and this was one of the hardest ones to place because you got Connor McDavid obviously as the number one center, but after the trade deadline, it was Andreas Athanasiou, Connor McDavid, and Tyler Ennis. And I like Athanasiou, I like Ennis, two solid players, but it's just not too good compared to other lines, especially in the top 15. Obviously, Connor McDavid is the best player in the world, but I think due to his wings, it kind of goes down for me a little bit. Then going on to number 16 and the Calgary Flames, and it's funny how Edmonton and Calgary are basically right next to each other in this one, but on the left side, you got Johnny Gaudreau, center Sean Monahan, and on the right wing, you have Elias Lindholm. Now, I think this is a pretty great offensive line with Johnny Gaudreau, Elias Lindholm. Two guys, especially on the power play, are great. Sean Monahan, I think, is pretty overrated as a center. Not amazing, but it's the wings that boost this lineup. To me, Gaudreau and Elias Lindholm, two excellent offensive players and just above Edmonton. And I mean just above. Now getting us inside the top 15, at number 15, I have the Nashville Predators. Now admittedly, there isn't an insane amount of star power on Nashville, but their first line is actually quite good when it is rolling. On the left wing, you have Philip Forsberg, center-wise, Matt Duchene, and on the right wing, you have Mikael Granlund. Now I think that first line is a pretty solid one. Forsberg, insanely talented, of course. Duchene, who's a pretty solid player when he's given the room to be great offensively. And Mikael Granlund, who unfortunately hasn't been amazing with Nashville, but in his Minnesota days was an absolute beast, and I think he can rekindle that again. Then going on to number 14 and the Chicago Blackhawks. On the left wing, you have Alex DeBrincat. Center-wise, you have Dylan Strome. And on the right wing, of course, Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane, of course, is the main guy on that line. And it's sad because Alex DeBrincat had a pretty slow year, especially compared to the year before. Same thing with Dylan Strome. So that's a big reason why the line isn't as high as it could be. But I think next season, both of those players will rebound, and I think they will be a lot higher. Then going on to number 13 and the Montreal Canadiens. And this one will surprise a lot of people because I don't think there's an absolute star on that line. But all three players are excellent players in my opinion. Tomas Tatar on the left wing, you have Philip Deneau at center, and Brendan Gallagher on the right wing. Three excellent players in my opinion who all do their jobs so wonderfully. You have a guy who could win the Selke in the future in Deneau, an amazing intense forward in Gallagher, and Tomas Tatar, who led the team in scoring. Then going on to number 12 and the Carolina Hurricanes. Now admittedly, this could probably be a lot higher if the left winger was Andrei Zvechnikov, but the left wing is Nino Niederreiter with Sebastian Aho, and on the right wing, Teuvo Teravainen. Now, I think Aho and Teravainen, two fantastic players, and unfortunately, Nino is one of my favorite players on the Canes, but just had a little bit more of a rough season offensively, and especially consistently, was just not as good. Then you go on to number 11 and the Washington Capitals, and some people might assume that this line might be higher, but it's due to what the players might be. Now, obviously, Alex Ovechkin is the number 1 left winger, but you have Nicholas Backstrom as the number 1 center, and Tom Wilson on the right wing. Now, I think Backstrom's still a great player, same thing with Tom Wilson, but especially center-wise, I don't think he's as good as some of the other centers you'll see in that top 10. Obviously, Ovechkin, one of the best goal scorers of all time, and I think is the best goal scorer of all time, but I think the center and the right wing just is not as strong as it could be. Then going on to number 10, inside the top 10 with the Winnipeg Jets. On the left wing, you have Kyle Connor, center Mark Scheifele, and on the right wing, Patrick Laine. Now, this line absolutely scores a bunch, but defensively is not all amazing. I think offensively, though, it definitely provides some value, and Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Patrick Laine, those guys will outscore you to heck and back. Then going on to number 9 at the Florida Panthers, and I think it could be higher if Alexander Barkov didn't have as much of a struggling year compared to the years he had before, but you have Jonathan Huberdeau on the left wing, and Evgeny Dadonov, who is the absolute man on the right wing. Still a fantastic offensive line for me, and the power play with all those guys together is just straight nasty. Then you go on to number 8 and the Philadelphia Flyers, and this is one that also I see getting underrated quite a bit. On the left wing, you have Giroux. At center, you have Sean Couturier, and on the right wing, you have Jacob Voracek. Now, admittedly, I'm not the biggest fan of Jacob Voracek when it comes to his offensive limit or potential or value, but I think Drew is a fantastic forward. Same thing with Sean Couturier, who, in my opinion, is also one of the best defensive players in League 2. So the value on that line, I think, is pretty sky high. Now going on to number 7, and these guys, the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, left wing side, you got Max Pacioretty, who, although started a little bit slow as the season went on, was absolutely brilliant. You got Stastny as a center, who I think is kind of overrated, but still a decent top 6 center. And then you got Mark Stone, who I think is one of, if not the best winger in the entire league. A guy who can basically do everything for you. To me, the wingers are what makes this line really special, and especially Mark Stone, the absolute man. Then you go on to the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have Andre Palat, Braden Point, and Nikita Kucherov. Now, obviously, Palat is kind of the weak link there on the left wing. He's a decent top or middle 6 guy, I would say, but Braden Point, one of the best centers in the league, and Nikita Kucherov, one of the best wingers in the league, truly make that line what it is. Then you go on to number 5 in the Vancouver Canucks, and I was kind of surprised by how high this line was, but I really do enjoy watching it, especially once they got Tyler Toffoli as their main right winger. It was just absolutely dominant as the season went on. Now you have JT Miller on the left wing, Elias Pettersson at the number 1 center, and then of course Tyler Toffoli. To me, Pettersson is already one of the best centers in the league, and JT Miller had a brilliant year on both offense and defense. And when it comes to Tyler Toffoli also, I think he scored like 10 points in 10 games for the Canucks, so not bad whatsoever. And then you go on to number 4 with the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have Zach Hyman, of course, Austin Matthews, and Mitch Marner. And I really like what this line brings. Have some amazing offensive players in Matthews and Mitch Marner, but you also have Zach Hyman, who can bring the intensity, but was also offensively really solid this year. I really like what that line brings, and I'm hoping it sticks next season as well. Then you go on to number 3 and the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it depends on what they run with in these current playoffs, but I think that first line could be absolutely dominant of Jake Gensel, Sidney Crosby, and Jason Zucker. I think that would be a line to remember in the playoffs. All 3 of these guys are fantastic players, and Zucker also, although wasn't amazing to start out with the Penguins, I think can kind of reform that bond in the playoffs and work amazingly. Then going on to number 2 and number 1, and of course it's been debated between the Colorado Avalanche and the Boston Bruins, but coming in at number 2, I have the Colorado Avalanche. You have Gabriel Landeskog as the first line left winger, Nathan MacKinnon at the center, and Mikko Rantanen. Now, in my opinion, Landeskog isn't the strongest left winger out there and is far from it, but Nathan MacKinnon is, in my opinion, the second best player in the league right now, and you have Mikko Rantanen also, who, when he's on his game offensively, is a brilliant player. And then you go on to the number 1, I don't know what that was, if that was a hiccup or something, I'm sorry about that. Then going on to the number 1 first line, and the best first line in my opinion in the NHL today, that being the Boston Bruins. And it's been the case, I think, over the past couple of seasons. I've made the case for it as the best first line since like 2017 or 2018 in fact. But you have Brad Marchand as the rat at the left wing, Patrice Bergeron at center, and David Pastrnak as the right winger. I think all 3 of these guys just perfectly encase each other, perfectly counter each other, and complement each other perfectly. You have Brad Marchand, who brings the intensity every single night, but offensively is so crafty and so shifty. You have Patrice Bergeron, who's still one of the best all-around players in the league today, and you have David Pastrnak, who doesn't even need to play defense. His offense is already one of the best in the league, especially when it comes to wingers. I think this first line basically does everything, and even though I don't think it's the perfection line, there will never be a perfection line. That line is about as good as it gets. But that'll be it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching each and every single one of y'all. If you guys enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Make sure you comment down below all your thoughts, what you agree and disagree with, and also let me know your rankings as well. Make sure you share this video with friends, get the word out there about the channel, boys, on the road to 17K subscribers, and click on this card right here to watch all of my hockey rankings content right in one playlist. I love y'all faces. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe. I love you. And I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.